So I was recently asked, what's a good topic to begin a conversation with a Muslim about? And I have two suggestions, Jesus and salvation. Let me take the first one, Jesus. For Muslims, believing in Jesus is a required belief. Okay, it's one of the required articles of faith. They have to accept that Jesus is a prophet of Allah. Now, obviously, they don't accept that Jesus is the Son of God or that Jesus is the second person of the Trinity, of course. But nevertheless, the Quran, their highest source of authority, actually has a very high view of Jesus. It's interesting to note that the Quran talks a lot about Jesus, in fact, far more than it does about Muhammad. For example, the Quran says that Jesus, his birth was announced by angels. Right? The Quran teaches that Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary. The Quran says that Jesus lived a sinless, perfect life. The Quran teaches that Jesus was able to perform miracles like heal the sick and raise the dead. The Quran says that at the end of Jesus' life, he was taken up to be in the presence of Allah. And in some versions of Islam, Jesus is also the appointed one to return at the end of time and kill the Antichrist and usher in the end of the age. Now that's pretty significant that the Quran says all those things about Jesus. But what's more interesting is when you compare that with what the Quran says about Muhammad. For example, the Quran does not teach that there was any sort of announcement about Muhammad's birth. He had just a sort of a normal birth. The Quran does not teach that Muhammad lived a sinless, perfect life. It doesn't call him the Messiah. He wasn't able to perform miracles. It doesn't say that he was able to perform any miracles. And according to the Quran, Muhammad has been dead and buried in Saudi Arabia for the last 1,400 years. And he's not the appointed one to return at the end of time. So this is rather significant. And this is why I say talking about Jesus with a Muslim is a great way to begin a conversation and to go in that direction because, of course, Jesus is central to your own faith, but also something that they're comfortable talking about. Now, salvation, or the topic of salvation, is the other thing that I recommend talking to a Muslim about. And one of the first questions I ask a Muslim is this: are you 100% confident that when you die, you're going to heaven? Now, I don't think I've ever had a Muslim say to me, yes, I'm 100% confident. And the reason is because in Islam, they have a meritorious-based system of salvation. In other words, they're going to heaven or hell based on their deeds. And if their good deeds outweigh their bad deeds, they go to heaven. If their bad deeds outweigh their good deeds, then they're going to hell. And so they have no way of knowing how many deeds they've committed, whether good or bad, and how they're weighted, and so they don't have any confidence in their salvation. But of course, you as a Christian can have that confidence because God has been willing to offer you a pardon and to pardon all of your crimes against him. And of course, this is what you can then talk to the Muslim about. And so this is why Jesus and salvation are great conversation starters with the Muslim. Because after all, you put those two together and you get the gospel of Jesus Christ, which, by the way, is what you want to talk to Muslims about. In fact, you want to talk to any non-believer about the gospel. Because this is the only way that a Muslim can have assurance of salvation, is through Jesus Christ. That's the plan of salvation, and that's what I recommend you talk to Muslims about.